Regulators play a vital part in the progress of the race to net zero. And we're joined here now by Sir Stephen Hillier, who is the chairman of the UK's Civil Aviation Authority and a keynote speaker at Sustainable Skies. You can't do this kind of work in isolation, can you? How important is collaboration with other countries, other civil aviation authorities and the big international groups as we push towards net zero?
Well, Alan, it's vitally important. Collaboration in all senses. Internationally, certainly, we need to make sure that we tackle this across nations, because ultimately, for a global challenge like this, there is no solution which is not international in nature. So the Civil Aviation Authority, we're working very closely with ICAO, we're working very closely with government as it takes through initiatives like the long-term aspirational goals, which were agreed with ICAO last year. We're working with our National Aviation Authorities Network, which was announced here at Farnborough last year, and we're working bilaterally as well. So I'm absolutely delighted, for example, today while I'm at Farnborough, I'll be meeting with FAA officials to ensure that we work closely. So absolutely essential. And that international collaboration is not just, if you like, at official level, it's also at the industry level as well, because all stakeholders have an interest here and we want to work with everybody.
Now, it's interesting, when you walk around an event like this, you can see lots of very small players that are trying very hard to make a difference. They're not used to dealing with certification, they're not used to dealing with the authorities like regulators. How do you help them along? Because it's a huge project, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think there's a really key issue here because not just in relation to sustainability, but new technologies and innovation, a lot of that is coming from the smaller enterprises, from those startups, and they, as you say, are not necessarily used to dealing with large regulators. They may not have the resources to be able to invest in the way that others might be able to, and some of them might not even be familiar with aviation in the round. So within the CAA, we're putting a lot of effort into making sure that we are configured as an organisation to deal with that. So as an example, we've just created a new head of future safety and innovation, so a very distinct area within the safety and airspace regulatory group. We've also invested heavily in our services division to provide that port of entry into the Civil Aviation Authority with regulatory sandboxes, rapid capability offices, innovation services, to make it as easy as possible for people to understand the regulatory environment. And also, actually, really importantly, so that we, the CAA, can understand where all this innovation is going ourselves, because we need to do that to do our job properly.
One big challenge must be getting the staffing to do this, because it's a huge step up in the numbers of people that you're going to have to be dealing with.
It's a huge step up in the numbers of people for sure, and we're aiming for a balance. We need that balance between existing expertise, because all of these new capabilities, new technologies need to be integrated into the existing aerospace enterprise. So we need to make sure that we're there for everybody. But we also need to make sure that we get that youth and expertise and young people encouraged. So we're investing heavily in STEM programs alongside government and working with industry partners. We're running apprenticeship schemes ourselves. We're running graduate schemes so we can get that talent in and get their enthusiasm. And I have to say, particularly in relation to sustainable aviation, that younger generation, if I might describe it that way, this is really what gets them out of bed and what they want to make a difference with within the Civil Aviation Authority.
And finally, the public. There is a responsibility for the CAA representing almost aviation to the public. How are you handling that?
Well, we have duties in relation to consumers, and so we need to make sure that consumers, those who fly, are not only safe, but they're as well informed as possible so that they can make appropriate choices. So we've already done a consultation on what information might we provide for consumers which would allow them to make choices which were sustainable, environmentally focused. Consulted on that, we're pulling together that evidence, and we'll go back out later on this year with some firmer proposals. So we want to make sure that when people fly, they can do so knowing about the potential environmental impact, but also importantly, knowing what we're doing about it. Both as a regulator, internationally, as industry, everybody in the enterprise, this is our greatest strategic challenge, and I think we're all on the case.